Okay, next we're going to check out the Project Media Effects Bay in Reaper. Now to get to it, we'll go to the View menu and choose the Project Media Effects Bay. And again, you'll notice there's a key command to open it up. On the PC, it's Control B, and on the Mac, it's Command B. And if we choose it, the Project Media Effects Bay shows up. Now right now, it's docked, but again, like all windows, it doesn't have to be. We could select this, and then it becomes its own floating window. But let's put it back. It makes it easier to work with because we can see our project and the bay at the same time. Now at first, this seems like the Media Explorer, as it lists all our files, but there is a difference. The Project Media Bay deals with just the files that are already in our project, where the Media Explorer deals with the files that are on your computer, that are not in the project already. So you can import them into your project, where in this window, they're already there. All the files over here are the same files that are over here. So it's dealing with your current project. But if you do want to import files from your computer, we can still do it through this window. We can go right down here, the Media Explorer, and that opens up that. So from here, we can add files to our project. But let's close this, as we dealt with that in the last video, and let's deal with the Project Media Effects Bay. Now the first tab up here is called Source Media. These are the files that are on your computer. We have 2 acoustic guitar files and a few drum files. And like I said, these are already in our project. Right up here. Now if we go to this one, Media Items, at first it looks identical, because at this point, we only have 1 item per file in our project. But that's going to change. If we split the guitars, here, here, we can see down over here, we now have more acoustic guitar items, because each one of these represents the ones over here. But if we go back to our source media, we still only have the original ones, these 2, because these point to the files on your computer. By splitting these over here, we didn't create more files. We just created more items that point to those files, which is why more show up in this tab. But for the most part, both of these tabs behave the same way, as you'll see. Let's put these back, and let's see what we can do in this window. The first thing we could do is we can mute our files right from this window. So if we want to turn off the guitar, just select these both, right-click it, and choose Mute. Now the acoustic guitars are turned off. Now you're probably wondering, why would you want to do this here? We could just do it right over here. That is true, but in a very busy session, let's undo this. It might be hard to find our acoustic guitars. Maybe we have 12 or 15 guitar tracks. So instead of looking for them in the arrangement window, we can go right down here, go to our filter, type in acoustic guitar, and just those files show up. So then we could select them and mute them from here. So some occasions, it's a lot quicker just to do it here instead of searching track by track. And again, this works the same way with the media item tabs. Choose our filter, type in something like kick, and just our kick items show up, or the source media kick files. Let's clear the filter. Now the next thing we could do here is see the path for our source files. Right over here. And if you notice, they're all in the same folder, because this project's very organized. They're all in the folder called Song 1 with their file names. Now if you see a file in this window that seems out of place, that means your project might be disorganized. And if you back up just that folder, you might not back up all your files. So if that does happen, just right-click it, go to Move Copy, and choose Copy File to Project Media Directory. And that'll copy that file to the same directory that you're already using. So it'll keep your files very organized. This is a good time to show you a preference. If we go down here to Media, there's an option right here that's off by default. Copy imported media to Project Media Directory. This is off by default, so if you bring in loops or sound effects from different places, it's not going to copy them to your Project Media Directory. So if you choose this, every time you bring in a file from a different place, it's going to copy it and put it in your project folder, keeping things a lot more organized. So I would suggest turning this on. But again, it's off by default. But you can always change it over here. Just right-click, go to Move Copy, and copy it to your project directory. So all your files are in the same place. Now we could also audition our files from this window. Go right here to the hi-hat, click this green button, and we hear the hi-hat, or the kick, or the snare. So it's a great way of hearing our files right from this window. And we can adjust the volume of auditioning right down over here. And this volume is just for auditioning. It doesn't change anything else. Now the next thing we could do, if we right-click, is check the usage. This hi-hat file is in all these different places. As you can see over here, every time it's placed, it shows up under our usage. So we can choose it from here. If we select this one is highlighted. So it's a great way of finding where each file is being used. Go to our snare, right-click it, go to usage, choose it, and we can see that our snare is used right here. The next option is to rename our file. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing this with the source media because here's a problem that could occur. Let's say you save this as mix number 1, then you rename your file and save it as mix number 2. When you go back to mix number 1, Reaper's not going to know the name of your file because you renamed it in your directory on your hard drive. So I wouldn't recommend changing this unless you're sure of what you're doing. But what you can do instead is go to Media Items and change it here. Rename the active take. And from here, we could change the name of the take as it appears over here. Now the next option is retain or remove. By default, all these files are going to be removed if we erase them from the project. So if we go to our hi-hat and delete them, it no longer shows up over here in the items or the source media. It's removed from the project. It's still on our hard drive. It's not deleted, but it's not in this project. And that's set by default. But we don't have to keep it that way. Let's undo that. We can go right here under Retain, right-click it, and choose to retain it. So now if we delete it over here, it's removed from the track, but it still shows up down here. In fact, we could see our status. Instead of saying active, it now says available. If we undo it, it shows back up, and now it's active again. Let's unmute the guitars, and now they show up as active again. And let's switch this back to the default. Remove from the bay if removed from the project. Now the next option, right down here, is replace in project. This is a very powerful feature because we can replace our sounds while keeping them in place in our song. Let's say for the kick drum, we wanted to change the sound. Go to the kick, under the source media, or the media items. Both will work. Right-click it, go to replace in project, and we can change each instance, or we can change all of them. We can choose other sounds in the project, or browse in our computer for the file. So let's add a new file this way. That opens up a dialog where we can import a whole new file. So let's go to our drum sounds, go to our 909, and choose a 909 kick drum. If we choose this, it automatically replaced the kick right here. Before it looked like this. With the other sound, redo it, it now looks like this, with every instance replaced. Now if you notice, down here, the old kick is gone, because we didn't set it to retain it when it was replaced. So if we retained it first, let's undo it. We're back to our old kick right here. Let's retain it. And now, let's replace it again. Go down here, go to all instances, browse for file. We'll go back to that 909 kick. And now it replaces it again. But the old one is retained. See right here? So now we can retain the 909 right here. And we could switch back and forth. We'll go to the 909, replace it with all instances, but this time we'll go to retained. And from here, we could choose our old kick, and that replaces it up here. Or we can go back over here, replace it, retained, and go to the 909. And it switches it back to that kick drum. So it's a great way of switching our sounds on the fly, as it replaces every instance of where they were placed. So let's undo all that. Now everything we've been doing so far can be done with multiple selections. So we can select all of them, right-click, and remove all of them in one shot. Or we can retain them all the same way. All of them, and retain them. Or put them back to their default. So we can do multiple things at the same time by selecting multiple items or multiple files. Now we could also add comments for our files. So with these guitars here, we could add a comment, name them keeper, and that file has that comment next to it. So it's a great place to put notes about our files. Now we could also create folders. Let's right-click and create a new folder. Let's name it drums. And let's make another one and name it guitars. Then we can grab our files and just drag them in to our guitars, put the drums in here. And now we have folders to keep things more organized. We can open our drums right here, or our guitars, and we can have separate folders for our media items. So what's set up over here can be completely different from what's set up over here. Just a great way of keeping things more organized. And we could delete those folders, but keep the items. Delete that one, and this one, and the items or files are still there. Now down over here to the lower right, there's buttons for everything I've been showing you. For usage, for muting, renaming, replacing, and removing. But we could also go over here to options. Now most of these are pretty obvious, but there's one I want to show you right up here. Mirror selection in Bay and project. This is off by default, but if we select it, then everything we do in this window is mirrored in the arrangement window, and vice versa. So if we select the acoustic guitar left, this one is selected. If we select our snare, it's selected down here, making it a lot easier to find. Just choose our kick, select it over here, choose the hi-hat over here, and it's selected over here. Now so far, I've only shown you the source media and the media items, but there's a few other tabs here. The next one is effects. This is going to show us all the effects in the project. Now you're probably wondering, why would I do it here? We could just go to our tracks and adjust them there. That is true, but sometimes it's faster to do it from here. Let's say you want to adjust the EQ on your guitars. Go over here to this plugin, REAPER, check out the instances. It's on 2 different tracks, both acoustic guitar tracks, and we could select it right here. Here's the first one, and we can adjust the EQ on it. We'll go to our compressor, which is only on our kick, and adjust that right here. And we can readjust our compressor right from here, instead of searching for what track it's on. All the effects show up in here, with every instance that they're on. And we can change the presets from here, which is very useful. So with our kick, we can go right here and change that preset for the compressor. Or with our guitars, which have 2 EQs, we can go to our preset and right-click. And not only can we change it on each instance, we can change it on all the instances. Go right here and change our preset on every EQ in our project. So that's the effects. We can also adjust the effects parameters. If we choose this, all the plugins show up here again, but if we click it, we can adjust their parameters. Here's our threshold. We can right-click it and show in track controls, make a track envelope, adjust or add parameter modulation right from here. And we could do it with every parameter on every plugin. Just choose it for this EQ, go to that parameter, and make that adjustment. Now the next tab is for our item groups. If you remember, in an earlier video, we could group our items. Like a kick drum, every item can be grouped. Or a snare, or the hi-hat. All these items are grouped together. So they show up down here. Here's where we can see all the item grouping in our project. So we can select them from here, and it selects all the items in that group. We can rename the group, we can delete the group, and the group is gone. They don't move together. So all the item grouping shows up right here. And we can see how many items are in each group. There's 158 here, 79 here, and so on. Now for the last option, take comps, let's go to a different project. Now in this project, I have an item with many different takes. And if you remember, we can choose each take by clicking on them. And if we want to save a comp, just double click it all, right click it, go to comps, and save our comp here. Now as you can see, we already have 3. So we can recall them right from here. That's comp 1, comp 2, and comp 3. But we can view them in the Project Media Effects Bay. Let's open it up. And right in this tab, we see our comp. Comp 1, comp 2, and comp 3. We could activate them from here. Activate this comp. And then each take under that comp becomes active. Do the same with this one. And all these become active. Now where this is helpful is comparing our different comps. Let's go back to our first one, activate it, and see that all of them are now active. If we go to comp 2, they're all inactive, which means on each item, the takes we chose are different, at least from comp 1 to comp 2. But if we go to comp 3, some of these are active because the second and third piece are the same as comp 1. So it's a great way of comparing them. The same thing down here on the last 2. These last 2 items have the same active take as comp 1. and we can also change it from here. For instance, let's say we like comp 1, but on the last item over here, we preferred comp 2. We can go down here, make this one active, and now we're hearing parts of comp 1 and parts of comp 2. Let's do the same thing for the second line. Let's make that one active. And now we created a whole new comp based on pieces of comp 1 and pieces of comp 2. So now we can go over here and resave it as a new comp. Maybe comp 4. Now we have a fourth comp right down here. So we can compare this comp to the other ones. So it's a great way of working with multiple comps, comparing them, combining them, or whatever. Now let's go back to our first project. Now if we're working on a project and we really like the sounds that are in it, maybe we have a lot of drum samples or effects or loops, and we want to use them for other songs. We can go down here under Bay and save it. Save all items as new project Bay. Then we can give it a name. Go to our new project. Go right here. Load and merge from the original project, which will show up right here. And it'll bring in all our source media, the items, the effects, parameters, even the groups, and take comps. All that can be brought in from one project to another right from this bay. It's really good for drum samples, effect sounds, anything we want to use in multiple projects. We can save the bay and bring it in to a new project. So anyway, that's the project Media Effects Bay in Reaper. Let's move on.